word, could this ride have any more bumps in it? Oh, hello, Gremlin Lord here. I am very excited this week to bring you my review of Robert Eggers' Gothic horror film, Nosferatu. So let's go ahead and sink our teeth into it. A darkness befalls a young married couple in 1800s Germany. Desperate to improve their lives, Thomas takes a job to finalize a real estate deal to a mysterious Count Orlok. But things aren't always what they seem. While the deal is successful, the hidden caveats of the contract thrust the young couple into turmoil. As a plague falls onto the town, time is running out to honor the deal signed in blood.
Rated R.
Lily Rose Depp plays Ellen Hutter, wife of Thomas Hutter, and in my opinion, the main character of this film. From the start of the film, it is shown that Ellen has a mysterious connection to the dark. She has this melancholic personality where even if she's happy, there's still this air of sadness about her. Lily Rose Depp does a great job of portraying this. She even worked with a body coach to get her character's contortions down. It's obvious that Lily Rose Depp immersed herself in this role. Nicholas Hoult plays Thomas Hutter, husband to Ellen Hutter. Thomas is working for a real estate firm and is desperate to prove himself. He wants to provide a better life for his family. Nicholas gives a solid performance throughout the movie. His fear felt genuine, though sometimes his anger didn't. I understand that Thomas is meant to be more meek and less forceful, but this is the same issue I have with Nicholas in his movie The Order. His presence just wasn't imposing enough to be forceful. Bill Skarsgård plays Count Orlok, or Nosferatu, the source of darkness that plagues our characters. Count Orlok is an old and withered man who is looking to relocate to the same town that the Hutters reside. Bill manages to bring this terrifying presence to life, even though he's under multiple layers of prosthetics. Not to mention that most of his performance is in the shadows. Bill worked with an opera coach to lower his voice an octave, so he would be even more menacing. It was truly a classic performance. The supporting cast was mostly fine. William Dafoe plays Professor Albin Eberhard von Franz, a discredited doctor with an affinity for the occult. I'll be honest, I like William Dafoe quite a bit, but this performance felt a little campy. His line delivery felt frantic, and often didn't match the tone of the other performers.
And tell me, Herr Doctor, just what would you have me do?
But yes, what can we do?
Allow this monster to consume my wife's soul? I think not.
I have seen things in this world that would make Isaac Newton crawl back into his mother's womb. We are not so enlightened as we are blinded by the gaseous light of science. I have wrestled with the devil as Jacob wrestled the angel in Panur. And I tell you this, if we are to tame the darkness, we must first face that it exists.
Aaron Taylor Johnson and Emma Corrin play husband and wife, Friedrich and Anna Harding, friends to the Hutters. They were good performances, though Emma was better. Our story begins with newlyweds Thomas and Ellen. They are just so in love. Thomas is given a real estate case that requires him to travel really far for a signature from a reclusive count. The journey is full of many foreboding situations, but Thomas presses on. After meeting with the count, he is afflicted with a disease of darkness. Meanwhile, Ellen is at home, having bouts of melancholy, which require the administration of modern medicine's most advanced techniques, such as bloodletting and ether dosing. Count Orlok, or Nosferatu's, evil grasp begins to grip the city. Time is running out to stop this plague from consuming everyone and everything. Now, this story may sound familiar to you. It's a new interpretation remake of the 1922 film Nosferatu, A Symphony of Horror, which itself was based on the 1897 novel Dracula by Bram Stoker. Though Stoker's widow did not approve of the usage of the novel and sued. A judge ordered that all copies of the classic film be destroyed. Luckily, some survived and we are able to view them today. There was also a popular 1992 film, aptly called Bram Stoker's Dracula, starring Gary Oldman. This is the third Robert Eggers film that I have seen, the other two being The Witch and The Northman. Eggers is known for his period piece films, which often feature the folklore of the locations in which they are based in. In my opinion, he is a master of atmosphere, and Nosferatu is no different. This is a pure, dark, gothic horror classic film. Eggers pulls from the 1922 film and the 1897 novel, but he still manages to create a film that is all his own. He uses traditional Romanian, Germanic, and Transylvanian folklore to flesh out the background of the film. The result is an authentic experience that puts you right back into the 1800s. The villagers speak a different language, almost always without subtitles. I did find it a little odd that Thomas would speak English back to them in response. This could have been done for the convenience of the viewer, to give us context clues to follow along with. However, it's also possible that the villagers knew English, but preferred their native tongue. They were very wary of outsiders, and wanted Thomas to turn back. This could have been their way of being purposely unfriendly in order to deter him. Every inch of this film oozed atmosphere. The rundown castles, the clothes, the homes, all of it. The excellent cinematography brought all of this perfectly to the viewer. There were many creative transition shots that emphasized the connections between the characters, like Ellen and Nosferatu. While some of these shots may be a little too modern for this kind of film, I still enjoyed them. They were modern flourishes to the classic story, without being too distracting. Now, I can't talk about the atmosphere without speaking about the use of shadows and darkness. The nighttime shots felt like nighttime. As I mentioned in my Gladiator 2 review, the over-reliance on blue-tinted fake night shots really irks me. Now, I did read that this film does use some computer effects to achieve their nighttime shots, but I didn't notice, which means they were effective in portraying night accurately. But now I am going to complain about the nighttime shots. There were quite a few times that the movie was so dark that it was impossible to see what was going on. It felt like I was just staring at an almost black screen. And I feel like I may have missed some details because of this. Now, that's not to say that shadows and darkness were not used effectively other times. Some shots were repeated, but each time with slightly more lighting. For example, when Thomas met Count Orlok, the Count was just a silhouette in front of a fire. But each time the camera went back to the Count, we could decipher just a little bit more of his body. It was a clever way of making us feel like we were in the scene with Thomas, letting our eyes adjust to the darkness. Another great visual technique was how saturation was used. The movie overall isn't very colorful. Even in sunlight, the colors are very muted. However, in scenes that involve Nosferatu, the colors seemed even less apparent. To me, this symbolizes how Nosferatu, who feeds on blood, would drain the life from his victims. These scenes were also drained of color, like how the victims would lose their coloring. It was a subtle way of showing how the curse of Nosferatu is ever present. The sound of the film also contributed to the atmosphere. Lone strings plucking in the darkness, orchestral swells as the tension rises. However, there were a few times where I thought the music was just too loud. It was uncomfortably loud. But this usually happened on scenes of heightened suspense, so this may have been on purpose in order to enforce the atmosphere. I did sometimes struggle to understand Count Orlok when he spoke. As I stated earlier, Bill Skarsgård worked with an opera coach to lower his voice an entire octave, and it was very effective. It gave him this type of gravity that you know you shouldn't listen to, but you just couldn't pull yourself away. This lower range, when partnered with a thick accent and a vocal growl, became incomprehensible sometimes. I wish I had subtitles. I don't think I missed any big details, I just kind of felt left out of the conversation. In addition to this, Nosferatu's voice felt fed into the movie, as opposed to happening live on the scene. I think this might be because of some of the after effects that may have been used. But again, this could be an artistic choice by the director. Having Nosferatu's voice feel disconnected from the scene makes it resonate in our ears more, as if he is in our heads like he is with his victims. The pacing is a bit slow in places, and again, it's because of the atmosphere. Characters have verbose conversations, seemingly using every single word they know. While I did appreciate the extended lore, sometimes I just felt ready to move on. The occasional abrupt jump scare staggered the pacing as well. And yes, I did jump a few times. Overall, Nosferatu is a refreshing artistic horror film. The attention to detail is immaculate. The sheer dedication of the cast and crew shows, and it feels authentic. And that is why I'm giving the horror gothic film Nosferatu the shadowy score of 8.5 out of 10. While I think this film does have some issues, I feel like most of them can be justified as artistic directions, rather than flaws. Well, that is if these issues were intentional. So, did you see the Gothic period piece Nosferatu? If so, lay yourself in the comment coffin down below and tell me all about it. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more genuinely horrifying content just like this.
Goodbye, horses. Ready for my close-up, Mr. DeVille?
See you next time.